Hello there and welcome back. I'm Maddie and this is Great Quest for Knowledge. Today I wanted to offer a great getting started guide to learning tarot. So there's definitely a lot to learn. This is something that you'll be practicing, learning, using as you go, and it's going to take a long time, and that's okay. This is a great place to start for beginners. Even if you have been doing tarot for a while, maybe you'll learn something new. I did just want to quickly go over how you do a tarot card reading. That's going to be maybe a little different for every person as far as the energy workings go, and that's totally okay. But essentially you're going to be shuffling the deck, focusing on your question, and you have to make sure it's not a yes or no question because you can't get a yes or no answer from tarot cards. It needs to be open-ended with the possibility of getting more insights. Now, while you're shuffling the deck, focusing your intention, you are already putting some of your energy into that. So you want to make sure you're in a good headspace, high vibration, and you're just shuffling until it feels right. And then you're ready to pull cards. You can either fan them out or you can pick from the top. You can even keep shuffling until one of the cards jumps out at you, literally falls onto the ground because it wants to be read. There are so many different methods and not one of them is wrong. Some people don't want any other person to touch their deck. They only want it to be infused with their own energy, and that's okay. Some people want, if they're doing a tarot reading for another person, they want that person's energy into the cards. And so they'll physically hand over the deck and guide that person through shuffling and pulling their own cards so they can do the reading. And I think that's perfectly fine as well. I actually like that there's no one size fits all, but perhaps that gives you a little insight into you might not want to just grab someone else's tarot deck. You should ask them, just because you don't know what their preferences are. It's kind to ask, and maybe it's kind to ask to touch anyone's personal belongings anyway. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Most tarot cards follow the same sort of rules. They have the same sort of meaning. The general title is going to be the same as well. Some of the artists may have taken some liberties in changing a couple of things, but for the most part, there will always be 78 cards, and 22 of them are going to be your major arcana. Arcana comes from the Latin root word meaning secret or mystery, and the arcana cards trump every other card. They are the highest meaning, they are the most influential. So when you find yourself doing a tarot spread and you have a card that says one thing, that's a major arcana card, and you have a card that says another thing, and they seem conflicting. They aren't. The primary focus should be on the major arcana, whereas the other card, the minor arcana, is going to be the additional information, the context clues. And it's just going to give you sort of the nuances of the situation. So just as in everyday life, things are not one way or the other, there are plenty of nuances. Reading tarot is going to be the same way. And so in divination, tarot is really great if you are trying to get a very general, it's almost that step back from the situation so you can see more of what you wouldn't be able to see while you're in the situation. It's not going to give you the yes or no. That's going to be different methods of divination. But tarot is really good at giving you that additional perspective. It does require intuition, and so this is also a very great way to train your intuition as well. When you're learning tarot, it's going to be intuition over rigorous study. Instead of just memorizing what kind of information is in your booklet that usually comes with your deck, you need to be able to interpret what does it look like the images are saying to you? What does the story between these cards that I've pulled, what does the story say when they're together? and that's all intuition based. Now, just a couple of getting started tips. I know there is a saying that you should be given your first tarot deck. I personally don't believe that at all. If you're in a situation where you may never obtain a tarot deck because the people around you probably aren't going to give you one, you shouldn't let that hold you back. Go out and buy a tarot deck. It's totally fine. If you are given a deck and you can't connect with it, you are more disadvantaged than if you picked it out yourself. It makes far more sense to go out and find one you truly connect with and work with that one. When I went out looking for mine, I wanted one that I knew it was calling to me. This was the one. And that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. Another thing worth mentioning, I know one of the very, very most popular decks is the Rider-Waite deck, or more accurately, more appropriately, the Rider-Waite-Smith or the Waite-Smith deck. It's best known for its artwork, and by calling it the Rider-Waite-Smith or Waite-Smith deck, you are giving credit to the artist. And let's face it, Pamela Smith deserves every credit. The artist of the well-known, frequently called Rider-Waite deck is a woman, and she deserves credit. Now, this is the most well-known deck. It is so influential that the majority of tarot decks are based on this deck. But if you can't connect with the Rider-Waite deck, it's not the deck for you, and that is perfectly okay. If you would prefer to learn on something you know you're going to like, the better option is to pick the right one for you the first time. I personally don't think it makes sense to get this deck just because everyone recommends it, everyone learns on it. If once you learn it, you never want to use it again. So if you're new, be assured you can choose whatever you like. Now, back to the tarot. Because there are 22 major arcana cards, they have the highest meaning. They are your trump cards. All of the other ones are going to be referred to as minor arcana. They deal with more everyday situations. They represent small actions and daily decisions. Of the minor arcana, you can break them down into suits. Suits will typically be cups, swords, wands, and pentacles. Depending on your deck, it might be slightly different. I've seen wands be staves. I've also seen pentacles be coins, depending on the deck. But the associated meaning and their represented element for the zodiac is the same. So cups would be your water sign. That is going to be the very emotional, intuitive, and this also includes any kind of emotional attachment. It's easier to kind of envision this when you think of the literal cup itself. It holds water. It's typically depicted with water in it as well. And so that's where you get into your intuition when you're kind of analyzing what's happening with the cup in the image. The pentacles are usually the earth sign, so that's going to be more of your career and financial stability. It may also represent some sort of investment decisions. The suit of swords is represented by air, so this is a little bit trickier to analyze because this deals a lot with the mind, with perceived sorrow, and it also deals with intellect. The suit of wands is associated with fire, so this is going to be the drive, your passions, and I also think of it as getting from point A to point B. It's kind of the pathway you choose and the journey. The aces of the suit will represent the purest form or qualities of that suit. Then, for example, the Ace of Cups is going to represent spiritual fulfillment because it has that tie to the intuitiveness of the element of water. The court cards, so for example, the page or knave, depending on where your deck comes from, It may choose to use one word over the other, but they're going to represent the same thing. So the page, king, queen, and knights are going to represent these personality traits. They're a little bit more representational of people. It can either be for the person you're doing the reading for, whether that's you or someone else, or it can represent the personality of another person outside of that. It can represent someone who is having influence on your situation you're doing the reading about. But most typically, the king and queen are going to represent the masculine and feminine of those people. That doesn't necessarily mean that the queen is in fact a woman who's influencing the situation. It may just be a feminine trait, or what is represented and described in the card is what fits that person. Now, when you're starting out, you don't have to start memorizing the correct facing and reversed facing meaning of every single card in your deck. You can start with just the upright meaning, and that is totally okay. However, I strongly encourage you, do not be afraid of reversed cards. They don't always mean something negative, and in fact, they're worth knowing. If you're trying to get that kind of context when looking into a situation, you don't want to be blinded by only hearing the goods, because that's not what life is. You want to have that heads up, you want to have that deeper understanding, and so you don't have to intentionally get reversed cards if you don't want to, but if you get one by accident, I recommend that you honor that and look into the meaning of the reversed as well. And as you go, that's going to get a lot easier. The reverse card does typically mean the complete opposite as the upright meaning, but not every time. Sometimes if the upright meaning is already negative, it can be worse and further negative. However, some of the reversed cards only mean it's a delayed positive, or perhaps the positive card is just a weakened but still positive. So it's not worth, in my opinion, just negating them and never using them. And even if you get a reversed card by accident, you flip it the right way and read the upright meaning. I really think those reversed cards are important. And I did just want to cursory go over that there are some people who intentionally take half of their deck, flip it over, and make sure that half of their deck is already upside down when they're shuffling. They want reversed cards. They want the fates or higher power or the highest self, whatever term you want to choose. They want that sort of divination energy into their deck with the intention that whatever is supposed to be reversed is going to be reversed, and they want that deeper look into what's going on. Now, that's not a method that I use, but I don't think either situation is wrong. With this greater understanding of how to break down each suit and what some of the court cards mean, I hope you have a beginner's understanding of how to start reading tarot. And if you are someone who's not new to tarot, you've been doing it for a while, I hope you found something new as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!